Hello, Blaine Gray here from Plastering For Beginners, and today I'm going to show you how to plasterboard this stud wall. I'm going to go through the tools that you'll need for the job, we're going to show you how to do it, I'm going to go through the whole process. Sorted. So first off, we're going to show you the tools you'll need for the job. Obviously, before we start anything, we need to make sure we've got the right bit of kit. So here it is, that's what we need. We've got one, it's called a surf form, or it's called a rasp. People call it all sorts of stuff actually, but that's what we need to grind down the plasterboard once we cut it to give it a nice smooth edge. We've got this. This is basically what we use to cut out for plug sockets. So this is called a jab saw, sorry, and this is what we need to do the cuts when the Stanley knife won't do the job. Leading nicely onto this. This is a Stanley knife here. Retractable blade. Make sure you've got a new blade in. It just makes the job so much easier. We'll need a tape measure. Obviously to measure the board's distances. I've got a straight edge. I try and avoid using my levels actually because I don't want to bend them, damage them. I prefer to use a bit of timber, in this case a bit of door liner. Got plasterboard screws. Make sure they are plasterboard screws. You don't want to be using timber screws, they'll rust and they'll basically come through your plaster. And in terms of length, I've got, I don't actually, 42mm. It's probably a bit excessive, but that's fine. You probably get away with 32mm, 35mm if you're going straight into timber, but that's fine. It's basically got more grip, so there's no problem with that. And then, obviously, last thing, we'll need an impact driver. That's it. Once you've got all them tools, you're pretty much ready to go. So let's do it. Oh, I'm forgetting one main thing. Plasterboard. This is 2.4 metre lengths by 1.2 metre. Basically, that's the boards we'll be using. And that's what you want to be using if the carpenter's done 400 centres. This is the board you want to be using because the 900 by 1.8 metres, it just won't work out the same. So this is probably the best board to use if the chippy's done it at 400 centres. So let's get going, let's do it. What I'd like to do before I start is cut some little packers. These are basically plasterboard packers, and what will happen, the boards will sit on these when we're laying them. We don't want them touching the floor because if there is any leaks with water, it'll absorb the moisture and just damage the board throughout. You want them elevated off the ground. So what you do is put them whereabouts you're going to put your boards. Put one there, that's at the beginning, and the next one and the fourth stud across where it's going to finish. That way they'll sit nicely onto the packers and the net will be lifted off the ground. What we want to get a measurement from the packer up to the ceiling. First packer there. So it's running out by 5mm, but this side is 2315mm and this side is 2310. Basically, we just want to cut the tops first and then check the width. We'll actually get the 1.2 metres in there, so we don't have to cut the width of it, we just have to cut the height. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to cut the plasterboard. This is actually from another clip, from another video, and this is a case where I was actually dot and dabbing the wall, but the process to cutting the board is the exact same, so don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to cut the plasterboard and how to get it right. So the first thing we want to do is I've got my plasterboard here, it's 12.5mm thick, and as we mentioned before, we went into different types of board you can use for the job. But what we're going to do is measure the height of the board and cut it accordingly. So, then take your tape measure, run it off your packer. Measure it to the ceiling, and I've got 2260. So I work in millimetres, but for anyone who doesn't, that's 226 centimetres. So what I do is mark it. Go across, mark one side. The opposite side. using Derby, or straight feather edge, sorry. I'm going to offer it up to the lines. The lines are prescribed there. Try and do it so I'm not in the way of the camera. Offer it up. Pushing tight. You want to score along your feather edge. And the best way to get this piece off, you literally snap the plasterboard. So where you cut it, pull it down yourself, then from behind, cut the back. There we go, nice clean cut. One thing you do need to do before you start is you need to mark the studs on the ceiling. So, otherwise you won't be able to see. We've got an upright here. Take your pencil mark to the middle of the timber. Put a clear line. Same again. And same here. Same in the centre. Keep going. That way, when it comes to putting a plasterboard to the wall, you'll know exactly where your studs are. This is essential. And you need to do this so you can see what you're doing. So this is where the surf form comes into business. We've just cut this board here. As you can see, it's got a few jagged edges. So, you know, nothing too nice there. You pull it back. And you take it. And you surf the edges down. See? A bit further up. It just cleans up that edge, and as you can see now, it's a nice crisp edge compared to what it was before. Makes life easier, especially when you're butting up to other boards. This is a great tool to have, especially when you're plasterboarding. It's the one. So here's a quick tip. You've got your plasterboard, you've got your outer edges screwed. A quick way to find out where your joists are, using your lines that you marked on your ceiling, get a spirit level and run your lines down. So even if you have marks on the floor which correspond to the studs as well, just put a straight line running from the top to the bottom which shows where your studs are. That way you'll know exactly where to screw in the middle. Again, just following the lines we're putting in with the ceiling. Use your spirit level to run a straight line using the bubble, making sure obviously it's plumb. When you've got your plumb line in, you know exactly where to screw, making the job 10 times easier, faster, and for beginners, make sure you don't cut into any cabling or any dangerous spots. Now this is it, simple again. All you're doing is just screwing it straight into the line, as you'll see here. Simple enough, no messing about. makes the process a lot better, safer. Make sure you don't hit any cables and make sure you don't miss any lines. Good little tip there. It's a good one to try. As you can see from the clip, I'm running my screws roughly every 12 inches, and I always make sure I put plenty of screws into my plasterboard. This prevents it popping, and I have seen it where plasterboards popped, crack the plaster because there wasn't enough screws on the board. What I'd recommend is just pile them in. Every 12 inches is a good amount. Just make sure you've got enough screws in the board. There's nothing worse than having a minimal amount which could affect the process and eventually affect your plaster. So yeah, again, make sure you got enough screws in and use the lines as a guide. The thing you have to watch out for is to make sure all the screws are butted deep into the plasterboard. Now this one's slightly over. You'd have to check after you've done, make sure you put them all in again. And the other thing you've got to look out for is it's not too deep. You don't want to pop the plasterboard either. You want it just touching the surface and slightly in, as you can see in this one. So at the end, just make sure you haven't got any poking through. It'd be a nightmare for the person plastering it, especially if that person is you. So as you can see, you've got a cable running down in between the stud. But what a quick tip is for you apply the plasterboard is I like to curl my cables and put them in the back box. That way when you put your plasterboard on, they're not going to get in your way, or they're not going to get in between the stud and your board. They're out of the way, it's easier to do business with. Put all your cables in the back boxes so there's no troubles. Nice one. So as you can see, we've cut the board for this opening, but you might notice that there's some back boxes on the wall. This is obviously where your light switches will be, and there's a plug socket. So I'll show you a quick way of cutting out for them now, a little trick. You're going to quickly mark where the first one is, and quickly again for that one. What you want to do is offer the board up to its position. Make sure it fits. And yeah, we're doing okay. And then here, from the front, where the back box is. So I'll mark this one as well. So I've turned the board around, and what you'll see is you'll notice grooves where the back box has created a bit of a markings where I've hit it. So what you do is mark it with your pencil. So you've got your markings, you want to use a jab saw now, we just want to cut out the opening. That. That. Got your hole exactly where you needed it, and that's ready to go. If you follow the same pattern for the bottom where we've allowed for that, then you should have perfect openings for both sides. Now I've seen one way of doing it, the other way is a good old fashioned way where you measure it out. So literally measuring up from the packers, measure that side, 275, same there, and then we measure the same distance from your door liner. 260. Mark it on, put it onto the board, and then do the same and cut it out. So let's have a look at the plug socket. As you can see, it's nice and tight. And then it's nice cut, flush to the box. That's how you want it. So when you plaster it, there won't be any gaps. You want a nice clean cut all the way around. And that's it. That's pretty much how you plaster board a stud wall. Nice and easy. Happy days. So there you go. That's a full process to plasterboarding a stud wall. There's not much to it. It takes a bit of practice with the cuts and the measuring, but with time anyone can learn it. And if you want to take it one step further and you want to learn how to plaster that stud wall, we've got a welcome course that we offer to everyone. Just click the link below. We'll basically show you how to plaster a wall, show you how to mix the plaster, what products to use, which tools to use. We'll take you through the whole process. It's completely free. All you've got to do is click the link below. It'll take you to the website and you can join Plastering for Beginners, where we'll show you how to start plastering for yourself. Ideal if you're doing the stud work and the plasterboarding, you might as well skim it. Thanks for watching this video, really appreciate it, and see you on the next one. It's Blaine Gray, Plastering for Beginners. Cheers.